I am pleased to introduce our next speaker. I did want to let everyone know Mr. Atkins will be joining us on the road. When you're called to serve with the governor, that means you may have to connect from on the road. And we're lucky that we have technology that enables that type of connection so that we can hear from Mr. Atkins. So it's my pleasure today to introduce Mr. Rocky Adkins. He's a well-known name in Kentucky, hailing from Sandy Hook. Rocky began his career in the public eye as a starting point guard for the Morehead State Eagles. While there, Rocky earned his bachelor's and master's degrees. Shortly after ending his college basketball career, he focused on serving the Commonwealth of Kentucky. At the age of 26, Rocky became a member of the Kentucky House of Representatives, serving the 99th District of Kentucky for 33 years. He was the House Majority Leader for 13 years and Minority Floor Leader for 3 years. Further, Rocky served 6 years as the Budget Chair. Rocky is currently serving as Senior Advisor to Governor. Was the forefront on expanding access to health care, standing up to cuts to education and pension, and securing investments in energy research and tourism that have created jobs across the state. However, Rocky is more than just a public leader. He is a husband, father, grandfather, cancer survivor, and a true supporter for making Team Kentucky the best it can be. It's my pleasure to turn this over to Mr. Adkins. We will see how this goes with audio. If for some reason our audio is compromised, we'll make sure we get Rocky's remarks out to all the participants. We're going to give it a shot, so I'm going to turn it over to all yours, Rocky.
Well, thanks so much. I want to make sure you can hear me okay. Can you hear me okay?
We can.
All right. Yep. Well, first of all, I apologize. We are on the road, but we came to Louisville, the governor and myself, this morning for a couple of really important announcements, and on the road now back toward Frankfort. Had a great day yesterday of almost $300 million in announcements with a new distillery, Horse Soldier Bourbon down in Somerset, and then on down to Corbin area in Williamsburg on a new horse track and off-track bedding facility. So all in all, several hundred jobs, $300 million in investment, and so the momentum continues for us in Kentucky, and economic investment, job creation, and improving and keeping our economy really healthy here in Kentucky. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Rocky Adkins. I serve now as the senior advisor to Governor Andy Beshear. Before that, served 33 years in the Kentucky House of Representatives in about every position that you could serve in. But much of that 33 years I spent concentrating a lot of my efforts on energy policy, the private sector of my life. I worked around the coal industry and worked around the oil and gas industry some as well. And so it was an interest of mine and something I felt like I knew a little bit about. And so I'm proud that a lot of my policy, a lot of things that I was able to work on with many people across Kentucky was trying to advance Kentucky's policy in the energy arena to make sure we were leaders, to make sure that we were in the forefront. So worked really hard on a House Bill 1 that was passed in a special session in 2007, and we passed that bill with bipartisan support. We had the industry on board, the environmental community on board, the regulatory community on board with that piece of legislation. I sat at the table that day when we passed it out of committee for the first time with Dr. Lee Todd on my left from the academia community and Tom Fitzgerald sitting on my right. And we had that kind of buy-in in a piece of legislation that later became known as Kentucky's Energy Independence National Leadership Act. We did a lot of things in that piece of legislation, but we concentrated around research and development a tremendous amount as we moved that bill through. We put in a very aggressive incentive package to try to recruit and be able to compete building the new energy technologies of the future. And believe it or not, we were one of the first that put in language that said facilities that were built dealing with fossil fuels needed to be the language of carbon capture ready. And so that was kind of the first that recognition in a piece of legislation that dealt with the coal community. It dealt with the environmental community. It dealt with renewable energy. It dealt with building standards that we needed to better ourselves on in Kentucky as far as Energy Star building standards. And we involved the finance cabinet to help us do that. And we got a lot of the school districts involved, and now most of our schools, a good portion of our schools now are Energy Star rated schools, and saving a lot of money on energy costs to be able to put back in the classroom now for our students to be better educated with extra dollars not going for energy bills, but going back into academics and back into our kids. So I'm really proud of the work that we did on that legislation and the involvement of a lot of different people. As far as the research and development part of that bill, we worked very closely with the UK's Applied Energy Research Center. We worked very closely with our engineering schools, both at U of L, UK, and we basically wanted to be able to advance. You know, we're a coal state, and low-cost energy from coal is so critical to our industrial manufacturing base and being able to recruit the industries that we have in Kentucky and being able to keep those industries, but also being able to advance in many other areas that we need to advance in, and seeing now that some of that movement toward solar energy, a lot of that movement that's happened over the last 15 years, and you know, in energy savings and renewable energy types of efforts that are being made, we've seen tremendous advancements. I'm proud of the carbon capture language that we put in that bill that you know, allowed for carbon capture to take place, but we worked on, you know, some test wells that we did in West Kentucky and in East Kentucky both, that, you know, on carbon capture and sequestration. The carbon capture sequestration, first of all, to test to see if we could store the carbon, but second of all, to be able to sequester the carbon for enhanced oil and gas recovery. So we did a lot of work. The Kentucky Geological Survey and others who were very helpful to this piece of legislation, and we still see this legislation working today in a lot of different areas. Got a lot of pilot projects going on. We work closely with the Southern States Energy Board and a lot of their efforts as well, and we've been able to capture a lot of federal dollars. Our universities have because of this piece of legislation. I didn't do this legislation alone. I'm not taking credit for it alone. We had a good bipartisan effort, almost, you know, a majority vote in the House and the Senate on a piece of legislation that, you know, dealt with coal, that dealt with the mining, with the carbon capture, with all of these other things. But we were able to get buy-in because in that piece of legislation as well, we created something else. And we created another opportunity for research and development in a little bit different area. You know, I mentioned applied energy research at UK, but we started working closely with the Speed Engineering School at U of L, and we created the Center for Renewable Energy and Environmental Stewardship, which now is called the Kahn Center. And the Kahn Center was created, I will never forget, I got a call right after we passed this legislation, and Dr. Kahn called me and told me, said, I'd like to meet with you in Louisville and talk about your legislation and talk about what I may be willing to do because of this section of the bill that deals with the renewable energy and energy storage and all of those things that we're seeing advance today. So I met with Dr. Kahn, and he said, because of this legislation, I'm going to donate $20 million to the Center for Renewable Energy and Environmental Stewardship. So the name was quickly changed to the Kahn Center, which it should be, and we're seeing unbelievable research taking place there at the center, and we're seeing unbelievable research and development taking place at the Applied Energy Research Center, also at the University of Kentucky. The incentive part of this bill was to try to entice, after research and development was done. We dealt a lot in coal gasification, biomass gasification for transportation fuels, trying to create cleaner fuels, trying to create really from what we call the Fisher-Tropsch technology that's been around a long time, of how we could advance that gasification technology to be able to have basically be able to keep not only coal industry alive, but also to be able to advance this carbon capture that was so critical, but also having both of those centers working together as we move forward on our basic fossil fuel side of the policy, but also on the renewable energy side of the policy, and really the energy savings that we have seen take place. So as we now look at the Energy Cabinet and their announcement of the energy policy that's being released, it's really exciting to see a lot of parts that we work to where we are today, and to be able to do it in a cleaner way than we ever have, in a safer way than we ever have, and to see these advanced technologies really going to where they are today. To see, Ford Motor Plant make an announcement of almost $6 billion and 5,000 jobs to build two big battery plants in Glendale, just below E-Town. To see what Bill Ford Jr. talked about is this is the future. This is where we need to go. This is what we need to do to try to save our planet. This is what we need to do to cut carbon emissions. But for Ford Motor Company to bet their future on Kentucky and to believe in us, and for us to be talked about now in every boardroom in this, not only in America, but in this global economy around the world is really exciting. And the governor says it best, we're no longer a flyover state. I think we're looked at as a state that is very progressive with a energy portfolio. Yes, we're still heavily coal, natural gas, and that is very important to our economy in Kentucky. But we're also advancing in other areas as we see industry want more renewable energy in their portfolio. That's what a lot of the stockholders want. That's what they want is, Fortune 500 companies, and I think we're making that advancement very well. So I'm excited about our future when it comes to energy policy, our energy portfolio, the R&D work that's being done in Kentucky now, the leadership of the governor, the leadership of the Energy and Environment Cabinet under Secretary Becky Goodman, and to see, I think, industry set up and pay attention to what we're doing in Kentucky, and for us to be competing in this global economy in the manner that we are, to announce now over $11 billion in economic investment in Kentucky just this year, and to created thousands of jobs that have been announced just this year. Matter of fact, since 2019, 400 industries have had announcements either to locate or expand in Kentucky for some 20,000 jobs, and we've done it during the global pandemic. I have all the confidence that we can train this workforce that we're going to need, the workforce for the future. I have all the confidence that we will meet the challenges of the economy of the future. That's where we're trying to position ourselves as we move forward. But energy will continue to play a key role in that. We can never forget our place of what helps make us a very, very competitive state when it comes to recruiting people like the Ford Motor Company, like Toyota, like others that are located here in Kentucky in the industrial advanced manufacturing sector. And it's low-cost energy. And as we pay attention to that and as we advance into the future, I think it's going to be really critical that we stay in the forefront, that we continue our research and development work, that we work together from every aspect of training this workforce of the future, from our four-year institutions, the Kentucky Community Technical College, all the way down into our high schools and middle schools to have, you know, the skilled trades that we're going to need in the future. But as we talk about energy policy in Kentucky, I'm really proud of the work that's been done. Some may argue, but I don't. I believe that today we're burning coal cleaner than we ever have in the history of time, but we know that the demand for coal and how we produce energy is much less today from that fossil fuel than it ever has been. Natural gas is a big player, but also the amount of renewable energy that's going on the grid is tremendous and is going to continue to grow into the future. So with everybody on this call, I look forward to working with you. I look forward to working with people that really have forgotten more about energy than I know. And that's the people I have leaned on and trying to help write policy as a legislator, and now trying to implement that policy in the executive branch as Governor Beshear's senior advisor. So I'm excited for today that we're rolling out the Energy and Environment Cabinet, kind of the platform, the foundation of our energy policy for this administration. And I'm glad to see that it's a mixture. It's leaning on the traditional forms of energy and trying to do those better, but it's also looking to the future of how we can meet the challenges and demands that we're going to have to as we move into these new economies and as we move into the new workforce that's going to be needed for the future. So I'm excited about where we are, and I'm excited about what we've been able to accomplish over this last now almost 2 years of the Beshear administration. And, you know, I'm an old athlete. Once you got the momentum going, don't let up. And I think we've got a lot of momentum in Kentucky. We're going to keep moving forward, and we're going to build that strong economy, and we're going to create those good jobs for our people of Kentucky. And we are going to spread the prosperity across the state. And the governor says that in every speech he gives, spread the prosperity to regions, every corner of the state, especially to those regions that need jobs the most. So I'll stop there and try my best to answer any questions.
Thank you, Rocky. We've always enjoyed working with you through the years on Kentucky's energy policies and our strategies. I don't think we have any questions for today, and we're just here at the top of the hour at noon. I know everyone is looking forward to lunch and enjoying that. And then also, we hope you'll rejoin us tomorrow today too. With that, I want to thank Rocky for his remarks, and I will turn it over to Eileen for our closing statements.
Thank you, Kenya. Well, a special shout out to the Energy and Environment Cabinet conference team for organizing and managing our virtual conference today. And thank you to all of today's presenters for their engaging and insightful presentations, and especially to you, our conference participants, for joining us. Remember, tomorrow begins at 8:30 a.m. Energy and Environment Cabinet Deputy Secretary John Lyons will provide welcome remarks and moderate tomorrow's first session. Topics will explore how Kentucky is building better communities, creating models and planning for equity, diversity, and inclusion. You will hear key leaders from the public and private sectors discuss the hot topics that influence current and emerging energy and environment decisions in Kentucky, and how new technologies and tools allow us to be more efficient and better communicators. Don't miss tomorrow's sessions. This concludes day one of the Governor's Conference on Energy and in the Environment. Have a great afternoon.
A slight correction, tomorrow's conference will begin at 8 a.m., not 8:30 a.m.
Thank you, Lindsay.